3, 2, 1, 0.
Hello, and welcome to the Fighting Moose Podcast. I'm your host and narrator, Jason Hendrickson. This is a podcast where I retell stories, some fictional and some historical, that can be enjoyed by people of all ages. Currently, I am reading the book titled Star Splitter, written by Matthew J. Kirby. In this story, they keep referencing the poem Star Splitter by Robert Frost. So today, that's what we are going to read. This story comes to us from the book titled New Hampshire. If you like this story and want to read the book that I am reading, I just want to give you a warning that it does have some potty words in it. It's spread out enough that I have kept on reading it, but it is almost enough to where I didn't want to finish it. I have enjoyed the book a lot, and I'm about halfway through it right now. So that's my book recommendation at present. Now, let's turn to today's story. I hope you enjoy. Let's begin.
Liftoff. We have a liftoff.
We choose to go to the moon in this decade and do the other things, not because they are easy, but because they are hard.
The Star Splitter. You know Orion always comes up sideways, throwing a leg up over our fence of mountains, and rising on his hands, he looks in on me, busy outdoors by lantern light with something. I should have done by daylight, and indeed, after the ground is frozen, I should have done, before it froze, and a gust flings a handful of waste leaves at my smoky lantern chimney. To make fun of my way of doing things, or else fun of Orion's having caught me, has a man I should like to ask no rights these forces are obliged to pay respect to. So Brad McLaughlin mingled reckless talk of heavenly stars with hugger-mugger farming, till having failed at hugger-mugger farming, he burned his house down for the fire insurance, and spent the proceeds on a telescope to satisfy a lifelong curiosity about our place among the infinities. What do you want with one of those blame things? I asked him well beforehand. Don't you get one. Don't call it blamed. There isn't anything more blameless in the sense of being less. A weapon in our human fight, he said. I'll have one if I sell my farm to buy it. There where he moved the rocks to plow the ground, and plowed between the rocks he couldn't move, few farms changed hands, so rather than spend years trying to sell his farm and then not selling, he burned his house down for the fire insurance and bought the telescope with what it came to. He had been heard to say by several, the best thing that we're put here for is to see. The strongest thing that's given us to see with's a telescope. Someone in every town, seems to me, owes it to the town to keep one. In Littleton, it may as well be me. After such loose talk, it was no surprise when he did what he did and burned his house down. Mean laughter went about the town that day to let him know we weren't the least imposed on. And he could wait, we see to him tomorrow, but the first thing next morning we reflected. If one by one we counted people out, for the least sin it wouldn't take us long to get so we had no one left to live with. For to be social is to be forgiving, our thief, the one who does our stealing from us. We don't cut off from coming to church suppers, but what we miss we go to him and ask for. He promptly gives it back, that is, if still uneaten, unworn out, or undisposed of. I wouldn't do to be too hard on Brad about his telescope. Beyond the age of being given one's gift for Christmas, he had to take the best way he knew how. To find himself in one, well, all we said was, he took a strange thing to be roguish over. Some sympathy was wasted on the house, a good old-timer dating back along. But a house isn't sentient, the house didn't feel anything, and if it did, why not regard it as a sacrifice? And an old-fashioned sacrifice by fire instead of a new-fashioned one at auction? Out of a house and so out of a farm, at one stroke of a match, Brad had to turn to earn a living on the Concord Railroad as under-ticket agent at a station where his job, when he wasn't selling tickets, was setting out up track and down, not plants, as on a farm, but planets, evening stars, that varied in their hue from red to green. He got a good glass for $600. His new job gave him leisure for stargazing. Often he bid me come and have a look of the brass barrel, velvet black inside, at a star quaking in the other end. I recollect a night of broken clouds, and underfoot snow melted down to ice, and melting further in the wind to mud, Bradford and I had out the telescope. We spread our 2 legs as we spread its 3, pointed our thoughts the way he pointed it, and standing at our leisure till the day broke, said some of the best things we ever said. That telescope was christened the Star Splitter, because it didn't do a thing but split a star in 2 or 3 the way you split a globule of quicksilver in your hand. With one stroke of your finger in the middle, it's a star splitter if there ever was one, and ought to do some good if splitting stars. 'S a thing to be compared with splitting wood. We've looked and looked, but after all, where are we? Do we know any better where we are? And how it stands between the night to night and a man with a smoky lantern chimney? How different from the way it ever stood.
Listen, Tranquility Base here. The Eagle has landed. That's one small step for man. One giant leap for mankind.
Thank you for listening to this episode of the Fighting Moose podcast. Please join us next time as we read another exciting story. Today's music was provided by the artist Analog by Nature, and the audio clips were provided from NASA. For more information to download and or listen to audio or materials from all our recordings, or to contact us, please visit www.thefightingmoose.com, or you can follow the links in the show notes. If you enjoy the podcast, please leave us a review wherever you get your podcast or on iTunes, and tell a friend. Thank you for your patronage, and as always, try and do a random act of kindness every day.
Mission complete, Houston. After serving the world for over 30 years, the space shuttle turned its place in history and it's come to a final stop.